begin to look at the stuff that's going on even in the church. And this one, when he said that, and it's like the compromise is the curse of the church, it really all of a sudden started sticking. It's like it's true because we've changed so much of what we do in a church and begin to compromise so that we offend people. And first off, the Word of God is going to offend the devil, plain and simple. The Word of God begins to offend you, it's starting to show you areas in your life that need to be worked on. But so many people begin to compromise who we are, or we begin to compromise the Word so that I don't offend you, or I don't step on your toes, or I don't want you to think that I'm like them. And we'll begin to change everything we are to where we've all seen things in life where something's been changed or been so mangled up or so added to or taken away from that it no longer looks like it used to when it first started. And I do this because I think of race cars and stuff like that, because you have somebody, because there are certain cars that I love. That when I see them cars, I mean, to me, a 69 Super Sport Camaro was the most beautiful car ever made. And so when I see one of them cars, it immediately catches my attention. It's a beautiful car. But I can immediately tell if somebody's done something to it that's not factory. I can immediately look at it and tell if somebody's done something and begin to change it, begin to compromise parts of it to do something different. And I'm looking at that car, and I mean, her passed one here not so long ago as it drove by, and in like that 5-second period that I seen it, I was just naming off stuff it was. And she's like, "You could tell that?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't supposed to be on that car. That car didn't come like that. Somebody has messed with this car and they've done something different to it." Well, they made it their own, but the deal is they begin to compromise this car to me. It's not what it's supposed to be. It's not what it was meant to be. And so we begin to do the same thing in our walk with God, and the same things that we begin to do in the church. What we'll do, we'll begin to compromise ourselves. We'll compromise ourselves spiritually just to not offend somebody else, so that we look like something different than what we are. And then before long, you begin to take on that identity. And we begin to be something else that we were never truly meant to be. Plastic coming at me. But compromises around us on a daily basis. It's a daily basis. Everywhere you go, that you'll find people that compromise different things. Some of y'all got people you work with that'll compromise the things that they do at work just to make it faster, make it whatever. They can be lazy and they'll compromise what it is they're doing and not really caring about how it affects somebody else. And sometimes that compromise can be very dangerous to somebody else. When you start stepping into things with the Spirit, a compromise is very dangerous for you and those watching you. Because I tell people all the time, no matter where you go, no matter what you're doing, you're setting an example. You're setting an example. Somebody's watching your life. Somebody is watching who you are because they're hearing the things that come out of your mouth, and they're watching you, and in their minds, they're testing you. They're watching you. What kind of person are you truly? And then begin to see what it is you get into and how you react and respond to situations at hand. And so many people will actually compromise who they are just so they don't make waves or make ripples. Think about that. If I'm being called to be the rock that got thrown in the middle to make some massive waves, and let's go ahead and do it. Yeah. Let's go ahead and get this ripple effect going on out there, and let's get all this dealt with. Amen. But I told God, I said, I don't really want to minister this. So last time I ministered this, there's about 3 families that left. I'm being serious. There's like 3 families that left when I ministered this, but the deal is it showed them where they were, and there was a. It kind of wiped it open for them. So, all right, now here's where you step up. This is where you come forward. This is where you make things right. But once again, would prefer the compromise than to actually make things right, because, oh no, if I fix it, then all this other stuff that I've been doing, now I've got to change. And you begin to see patterns in your life where you make compromises, and the things that you'll compromise, there's patterns that begin. And before long, you're something completely different than what you would turn out to be. It's kind of like them cars. The only thing on it that might look the same might be the hood or the doors, and the rest of it's completely trashed out or cut up or made something completely different. It has a similarity, but that's about it. Oh, you go to church. So do millions of other people. Oh, you go to a church where they sing songs. So do millions of other people. Where's your heart? Who are you? And begin to see the compromise of where you've been and where you're at. And it's a position to move on up from. I had to learn in my own life that I can't compromise things. I can't compromise myself in anything, because when I begin to compromise, I'm compromising my wife. I'm compromising my children. And if I compromise now, I'm compromising a whole church that's watching me as pastor. Then I turn right around and say, oh, God, if those are sitting out here, if they begin to compromise, they're compromising the whole church as well. Because when you're connected to a body, what it is that you're doing, whatever it is you're compromising everybody around you as well. You're compromising the body. You're compromising the church. You're compromising your brothers and sisters, other people are watching you, your children, somebody else's children. And there's always somebody that's watching your life. Always. My mama used to tell me all the time, you know your brothers look up to you. I said, yeah, they have to. I'm much taller than they are, you know. And even her talking about, you know, she was saying that a while ago. I looked at my big brother. I was like, yeah, she always had to. She's always shorter than me. You know, but I remember being that kid. It's like, I don't want them watching me. I don't want them to be like me. And I'm not changing who I am just so that, you know. And so I had that mindset. Well, that's where we get a lot of times. Is I want to do what it is I want to do and be danged with everybody else, because I'm going to do what I want to do. And what I'm doing is not affecting anybody. Yes, it is. First off, listen to the attitude behind what it is you're saying. That ought to put you in check very quickly. The attitude. Because if you got a bad attitude and it's starting to stink, chances are something dead and rotten there. So we need to deal with that. And if somebody comes by, that's all they're getting. They're smelling that. They're catching that. They're hearing it. It's like, ugh. So you've got to learn to look at where we're at in the church, and learn to look where you're at within yourself. Where do you stand with God? What are you willing to put aside for Him? You hear people all the time, I'm sold out for Jesus, are you? You can stand up in the church and tell everybody all the time. But I've seen you go out the door and what you do outside. And, you know, I see how you act out there. And so people watch your lives. Is what I'm trying to tell you. People watch you. Whether you like it or not, people watch you. Especially when you start talking about, well, I'm one of those. Sarah can attest to this. Because when I first moved to Central Texas and I was working in Gatesville, that was before BC, before Christ. And I was working at a trailer shop, and trust me, I'm in there with a bunch of welders and all of a sudden, you know, foul-mouthed guys, you know, the party animals, I mean, all this other stuff. I'm in the midst of all of it. And then when I changed my life around and allowed God to come in and begin to change things in me, also my speech become different. And I had them guys that work with me say, yeah, I'll give you a month. I'll give you a week. You'll be right back to where you were. And to me, that was a challenge. You challenged me, you know, I'm going to show you. But, you know, it was a prideful thing for me to do it that way. But the deal is I wanted them to see a change in me. I wanted them to see the difference in me. I wanted them to see that I was not the normal, everyday Christians that would walk in and out and say I am, but do something completely different. And so I know she remembers those times with them guys that we've worked with, and, you know, it's kind of like, just waiting on you to jack up, mess up, you know. We're just waiting on you. And after a while, they got to where they wasn't trying to taunt me anymore, because it wasn't getting anywhere. And I wasn't changing who I was. Then it got to where they were coming to me, asking me questions. Well, hey, can you pray for this? Absolutely. Hey, what do you think God would say about this? And so I had those opportunities because people began to watch my walk. They began to watch my life. I changed. I wasn't willing to compromise to stay the same at work so that I didn't make no waves and then try to go to church and live something different. And they began to see that. They began to catch on what was going on in my life. And, you know, them guys, some of them liked it, some of them didn't, but I didn't care. I don't want to rush through this, but I want to make sure that I get this in y'all this morning. It's the only time I got today. But there are so many different stories in the Bible and so many different accounts that I could use in the Bible of people who are faced with something and not making a compromise. And the ones I'm going to use, I don't think any of us in here today have stood and looked death in the face and having somebody going to say, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to shoot you, I'm going to do this to you unless you do this. We've not been in that spot where we've had to stand and not compromise on life or death. You got me? Nobody's held a gun to my head and said I've had to renounce Christ or die. So none of us have faced this kind of situation before. I can dare say and look around the room, I don't think any of us have been there. Although there have been people there. But when you start standing in those situations where little things come up, it begins to show you your character, number one. It shows you who you truly are. How close is your walk with God? How close are you walking with Him? How tight is your faith in Him? As it begins to show you your character, it begins to show you who you truly are. And if you begin to compromise things, and I look at it this way, if I compromise anything, that means I will compromise everywhere. Because if I compromise anything outside, then I'm going to compromise everything inside. If I compromise things at work, if I compromise who I am, then I would compromise even in my own marriage, because maybe I don't want to make some waves, ripples over here. Maybe I would tell just a quick little lie so that I didn't have to deal with something. And I begin to show my true character that's coming out in the midst of this. And so if you begin to compromise in areas, it starts going across. It's like a cancer. It begins to eat up at everything. It's because it's showing a true character that's there. And it's a character that needs to be eradicated and something that needs to be dealt with. But many people don't want to deal with it. They don't want to get in the midst of it. We'd rather just cover it up and say it's okay. And we see different areas that go on in people's lives sometimes. And we, Lord help us. I've even had to deal with stuff like this, even as being pastor and being around those, people will want to do certain things. And I can't say okay anymore. I can't say that's okay anymore because I'm giving them an out. I'm giving them an out. I'm giving them a way of compromising, and it's okay because Pastor said so. And I become complicit. And we'll do the same things as you have somebody come up and they'll ask you a question or ask you, can I do this or can I do, would it be okay? Oh, yeah, sure, no problem. And all of a sudden we've given them an out and we've allowed them a compromise and we've showed them how it is a compromise. And I've been learning this, and if y'all can't tell, I've talked with Apostle quite a bit in the past couple of days. It's good. Yeah. It's good. But being able to sit around and we see things, and I know me and her have sat and talked before, and we'll see things that are going on, and we're trying to figure out how can we say something without making them mad. It's like looking at somebody's life. It's like you're looking in the midst of something other than you're seeing something going on. It's like, how can I say something to Tracy without making her angry? What could I say without making Sarah mad? What could I say to Skylar? I mean, how could I bring this up to Skylar? Skylar, you're really screwing up. How can I tell him this without him getting mad and angry and whatever? But the deal is that they're truly submitted to the things of God. They want correction. And if you're truly after the things of God, you're looking for correction, and you want correction because you want to get it right.
Amen. That's good.
That's like I've told y'all many times. My apostle can call me, and trust me, he has. I said, look, you need to fix this. Yes, sir. What did I do wrong? What are you seeing? What did I miss? Did I say something? And it's because I want correction, because I want to make it right. I want to make sure I get it right. Yeah. And so when I've kind of stepped into that position now, it's kind of like, okay, if I've got to bring something, they're either going to receive it or they're not. And it's totally up on them. It all depends if I bring it in love.
Yes, that's it.
When my heart's right and I'm bringing it in love, then that's how they should receive it. But if they don't, then I've done what I'm supposed to do. Then now it's up to them to correct what the issue or the situation is going on. Amen. But I want to read y'all a quick story. It starts over in Daniel 3. And a lot of y'all have heard this one. I used to hear this one all the time in children's church. It used to be one of my favorite stories to hear. Everybody loves hearing about 3 Hebrew children in the fire, the fiery furnace. But what it is most of us, when we hear that story, and even Miss Chris, I know as much as she's taught children's church, she could probably tell you that they probably didn't spend a whole lot of time on why did they go to the fire. We all want to talk about the fire and them coming through the fire, but why did they go to the fire? What caused them to be thrown into the fire? Exactly. There was no compromise in them. Staring death in the face, and they were not willing to compromise who they were or what was going to come out of their mouth. Amen. So I'm going to read this to y'all. Starting in verse 1, chapter 3, Daniel. So Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits and its width 6 cubits. And he set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. And it says, and King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to gather together the satraps, the administrators, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, and the officials of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image of the king Nebuchadnezzar had set up. So in other words, he's telling everybody to come on. He's taking everybody in charge. Say, hey, I need y'all here and bring you people. Yep. So the satraps, the administrators, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, and all the officials of the province gathered together for the dedication of the image that the king Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Notice he keeps saying that Nebuchadnezzar set up. Yeah. That Nebuchadnezzar set up. Okay, so it's showing you who set this thing up. So then a herald cried aloud, and to you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at the time you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, the psaltery, and symphony with all kinds of music, you shall fall down and worship the gold image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast immediately into the midst of the fiery furnace. So at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, and the symphony, all kinds of music, all the people, nations, and languages fell down and worshiped the gold image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. It says, therefore, at the time, certain Chaldeans came forward and accused the Jews, and they spoke so to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. And I think I mentioned on that before, some of the old king live forever. Hey, we need your good graces here. We're fixing to tell on somebody. So, hey, live forever. Well, I want to be in your presence for a moment, and I want to make sure you're happy with me because I'm fixing to tell you something. All right? I got some news. I'm going to tell on somebody. I got some gossip you need to hear, so I want to make sure we're in good. We in good before I tell you this. So, oh, king, live forever. What else you going to tell the king when you walk in front of him? Oh, king, I hope you die tomorrow. So, no, king, live forever. Yeah. So you, oh, king, have made a decree. So listen, you made a decree. You done this. So I'm going to tell on somebody. So you, O king, have made a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, and the psaltery, and symphony with all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into the midst of a fiery furnace. I said, then there are certain Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not paid due regard to you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image which you have set up. So in other words, you got some men that's in position. You got some men that's in position. They've been set in some high positions, and I want them. They've been set up here. They're here over these provinces, and I want their position. It's about what it all boils down to. I want their position. And you've told them to do something they hadn't, so I'm coming to tell on them. I'm coming to tell on them. They're not compromising. They're not doing what you've told them to do. So then Nebuchadnezzar, in rage and fury, gave the command to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they brought these men before the king. And so the Nebuchadnezzar spoke to them, saying, is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image which I have set up? So now if you're ready, so now I'm going to give you a chance. If you're ready to compromise this round, now that you're standing here before me and everybody else, I mean, if you're ready, I'm going to give you one last chance here in front of everybody. I've called you before me. Now, are you ready? You ready to compromise? So I'm going to give you one last chance. So now if you're ready at the time, you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, and the psaltery, and the symphony with all kinds of music, you fall down and worship that image which I have made. And he says, I made good. But if you do not worship, you shall be cast immediately into the midst of the fiery furnace. And then he asked this question, who is the God who will deliver you from my hands. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter.
Come on. Come on. Woo.
Don't you wish all of us could answer just like that?
Yeah.
Don't you wish that you had that tenacity about you to be able to just answer like that? That would show great character. That would show truly what's in your heart. That would actually show who you are. And this is showing the heart of men. This is showing exactly who they are. King, we don't have to answer you in this matter. Basically, it doesn't matter what you say, I'm not changing. You've brought us before you and you said, hey, if you do this, I'm giving you one last chance. And I'm telling you once again, I don't have to do this. I don't have to answer you because I'm not changing what I'm going to say. I'm not changing what it is I'm going to do. And you can put this very simple even in terms today. Mamas and daddies, we get up on Sunday mornings, we go to church. Kids, I don't want to go. This is what we do. If I don't feel good, it's okay. We're still going to church. We're going to pray for it and we're going to go. There are things that we don't compromise. There's things that we don't change. We're going to church. I'm just using this as an example. When we go to church, this is what we do. We don't change what it is that we do for somebody else. We don't change the things that we're going to say for somebody else. So there isn't a different answer you're going to get from me. What do you do on Sunday mornings? I go to church. Yeah, but there's this little thing going on, and you understand that we could go and do this. No, my answer is still the same. We go to church on Sunday morning. This is the time that's been called, and this is what I do. This is where I go. My answer doesn't change.
Right.
I'm going together with my brothers and sisters and be a part of the body and be there. Why? It's because I gain strength. I gain something that I am, and I'm together with those that I've been called to be with. So I'm not changing who I am, nor am I changing my answer. Situation's not going to move me. It's what I'll do. Amen. He says, so I don't have to answer you in this matter. He said, if that is the case, our God, that was this big G on that one. A while ago it was little g. Who's the God who won't deliver you from my hand? Now he's the big G.
Come on.
So our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. So in other words, my God's going to deliver me. He said, but if not, this is the part I like, but if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the golden image which you have set up.
Yes.
So the Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury. You'll make people mad. Guys, let me tell you, you will make people mad.
Yeah.
You may not be willing to compromise on something other, and you will make people mad. You will make family mad. You will upset people that are close to you if you're not willing to compromise. We've had people that wanted us to go do things on certain days, and it's like, y'all know better. Why would you even ask me? And they get mad. Well, this is the only day that we can do this. Then I'm sorry. I'm not changing who I am or what I do for you. There's more at stake here than just you. There's more at stake than just your feelings. There's more at stake here than just what it is that you wished I would do. I'm not changing who I am. I'm not moving my family into something completely different. So you will make people mad because you're not willing to compromise. And the deal is you got to be okay with that. Because you got to look at the heart behind what's going on. That compromise, what does it mean? Now, I'm not telling you guys that y'all can't go visit at times and go see other people and all that. Y'all catch the heart of what's being said here. And I'm not just talking about being at church. I'm talking about a lifestyle of who we are. What comes out of your mouth on a daily basis. I'm not talking about just the Sunday mornings and the Wednesdays you hear. This is a lifestyle. This is 24/7. This is 365. This is day-to-day life. And this is what these guys are living. It's what we should be living. I'm using examples of the church and how we gather together, but it begins to show people where they're at sometimes. A lot of times it's where people are. You just got to hit them where they're at and show them different ways in different areas of which they need to grow in. But the deal is it goes right back to the character of who the person is. It goes back to the character of the heart and the position of the heart. Amen. But he says, even not, we're mad. 18. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the golden image which you have set up. I've already read that. There I am. 19. So Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury, and the expression on his face changed towards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He spoke and commanded that they heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually heated. So then he commanded certain mighty men of valor who were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. So then these men were bound in their coats, their trousers, their turbans, and other garments, and they were cast into the midst of the fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent, the furnace exceedingly hot. So the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That right there in itself is already a miracle. Think about that. They've heated this thing up 7 times hotter, and they said, and because of the haste at which it was done, the man who carried them up was killed by the fire. So you still got 3 men standing there that's not even been touched by this. But the men that bound them up, and he's talking about his men of valor, he commanded certain men of valor, which means he had certain men that he knew was his men of valor, his strong men, his guys that are on his side, his men of valor. He probably, I would almost imagine he had something like his generals or something, the guy that he's trusting to take these 3 guys up and cast them into the furnace. And so they go up, and he just watched his mighty men of valor die from the heat. And he's still watching these 3 men standing there. I want y'all to catch this. And so these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell. They weren't even cast in. They fell in, bound into the midst of the fiery furnace. So then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and he rose in haste and spoke, saying to his counselor, so was not 3 men cast bound into the midst of the fire? And they answered and said to the king, true, O king. He said, look, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt, and the form of the 4th one is like the Son of God. And usually when we get to the children's church, it's kind of where we stop. We just talk about how they were thrown into the fire and how the son, there was a 4th one in the fire and it looked like the Son of God, but we never talk about why they were there. Yeah. We never talk about why they were there. Why were they there? Because they were not willing to compromise their walk with who they were. I'm not willing to change what I speak. I'm not going to bow down before your gods. And if you go back and you read in the book of Daniel, you can even go to the 2nd chapter where Daniel stands before the eunuchs as they were captured and brought in, and him stood before the eunuchs along with these 3 and told them he didn't want the portion to which the king was giving them. He didn't want the wine and the food and the meats that the king was giving them because they were Jews. There was only certain things they would eat. And he's telling them, I don't want the king's portion. Well, that right there is a slap in the face. That's a slap in the face. And even the eunuchs that's sitting there with him is like, if you don't do this and I bring you before the king and you look bad, I die. But Daniel still tells them, we don't want what you have. Give us this. Test us for 10 days and then see if we don't look better than the others that's taking the king's portion. Because he wasn't willing to compromise himself and even the men that was with them, that was the children of they were Jewish, that they weren't willing to change what they were doing and compromise themselves. I mean, here they are. They have been brought in and set in the king's house. They're still slaves, but they've been brought in to be taught and learned of some things. And so they have everything at their fingertips. I mean, there was a reason to compromise. They'd been given everything, and they're in a position. They've been caught. They're now slaves, so now everything is handed out before them, and it's like, I can compromise now. But they weren't willing to change who they were. Even in the circumstances and the things going on, he wasn't willing to change. And he stood up and said, hey, I don't want the king's portion. I don't want what it is he's given us. I'll take the worst. I'll take the less. I'll take just the vegetables and the water, I think it was. It's just give me this, because I don't want the meat that's been offered to idols, basically. I don't want the wine that you've been given. I don't want these things because it goes against what I believe. It goes against, and it causes me to compromise who I am. And if you look through that, they were all were raised up in positions because of God was able to come through and bless them on who they were because they weren't willing to compromise. And they stood up as a testament. And you still got the enemy coming through trying to take them out in all different situations. You go over to the next one and you can read about Daniel in the lion's den once again. Certain men who are trying to take out the Jews. A certain man is trying to take out that person, that one man that just stands out there that's completely different than them, the one that will not compromise. And how they threw him into the lion's den, but watch how God come through on him because he wasn't willing to compromise. He wasn't willing to change who he was or do something different to make you feel better. And y'all got to capture this. We got to get to that point in life where, and I'm not telling you go out and purposely make people mad. People just get angry with you, and it's just the spirit of what's going on because you won't compromise who you are. I'm not going to change the things I do unless God comes up and says, hey, you need to maneuver and we need to move over this way or do this thing or do this thing, but it's not going to change what comes out of my mouth. I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to change the things that comes out of me if it's based on his word to make somebody else happy. Nor am I going to change what it is so that I don't upset somebody. We've all done that. You go to somebody else's house and we'll talk different, or we purposely won't say things, or we'll tiptoe around on eggshells because we just don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Some of y'all may live that lifestyle now. You don't have to. It's when you honor God, he honors you. When you honor God, he can bless you. When you honor God, you've given him an open doorway to be able to come in and move it because you got your trust and your faith in him. And it may feel like you're about to walk through the fiery furnace. You may feel like you're in the midst of it. You may feel like you're down in the lion's den and all of them coming at you, looking at you, and they're hungry. But the deal is what's coming out of you. And even if the end result's going to be a whole lot better. But so many of us will compromise little bitty things. And when you start compromising the little bitty things, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It gets so much easier. It's kind of like telling a lie. I remember Mama used to tell me that all the time. You just tell a little lie, it just gets bigger and bigger because you got to tell another lie to cover that lie. And she's right. Because you tell one, and then half the time you forget about the one you just told. So then you got to tell another one to cover that one, and then make sure. And so it continues to grow. And that's a compromise. When you begin to compromise, it's just a little bit, and just a little bit more, and just a little bit more, and just a little bit more until you get to the point where you don't even know who you are anymore. And nobody knows who you are anymore. Well, didn't you say you was a Christian? I know you go to church on Sundays, but you don't, there's nothing different about you. There's nothing different about you. You don't talk any different. You don't act any different. You're just like us. Man, that piece better. So if you hear anything this morning, just look at your lives. Look at where you're at right now. Begin to take an evaluation of yourself. If you did anything this morning, take an evaluation of yourself. Look at where you're at. Where's your heart? A lot of people say they're connected, but are you truly connected? I'm not talking about connected. I'm talking about connected to the things of God. Because once you got it right here, things right here go easy. Once you got this, when it's between you and God and everything's right and your heart's connected and you're right where he wants you to be, then this is easy. This is easy as well. We just got to get in line. But this becomes so much easier. So begin to look at where you're at. Evaluate where you're at. What does it look like for you to be where you're at right now? Are you compromising anything? Are you compromising your walk? Are you compromising your talk? Are you compromising the things that God's called you to do? Because I asked that question, all of you kind of got a little Rolodex going through your head. Somebody like, yeah. Somebody like, I ain't sure. But if you don't have a resounding yes or no, then you need to definitely be doing an evaluation. See where you're at. See where you're at. What's laid out before you, and what are you connecting to? Where's your heart at in the midst of all of it? You know, I hear things all the time, and being where I'm at now in ministry, I can look back over my life from years ago in ministry, and I can look back at the times where certain things were going on and how I was or wasn't connected to what was going on. And I was compromising myself at the time, and I was compromising the ministry at the time, because it's like either I wasn't connected to it or I just didn't care. Or I'd actually go out and speak against what was being done because I didn't like it. Like it all revolved around me. Because I'm going to promise you this: you will never, ever, always 100% agree with anything. I don't care how close you are to somebody. You will never, ever 100% agree on everything. Never. 19 years of marriage and we still don't agree 100% on everything. But we know how to come to an agreement. It's the same way in ministry. A lot of people come into ministry and think, oh, everything's going to be grand. Work just got started. I promise you, work just got started. Why are you telling us this? Because there are going to be times where you ain't going to agree with me. And it's okay. There are going to be times I ain't going to agree with you. And it's okay. Where's the heart at in the matter? What has God said about the matter? And are we compromising anything to come to an agreement? It's that simple. Because I'm always going to go back to see what God said. Because that's going to have the final authority in my life. And I'm not going to compromise on that word. But I can look back at my life at all the times, even my pastor, there's things he'd wanted me to do, and it just irked me. I didn't agree with it. But I would do it out of obedience and watch it get blessed. Yeah. There have also been those times where I just flat blatantly didn't do it because I'm going to have my way. And it would cost me dearly in the things of the Spirit. It would cost me dearly. It would cost me some trust. It would cost me some peace for sure. But then there would be those times where I'd be walking back into the church wondering if everybody's looking at me with a John Desai because I didn't do something the apostle told me to do. And they wouldn't even have a clue, but the deal is that was there, it was inside of me, and it was eating me up. And it's because I made a compromise somewhere, and it's like I was just wasn't really to deal with it. And it's kind of like, just like everybody's looking at me like I messed up, I missed it. And it was costing me the peace and the joy that I should have been having. And it's just simply because I just wanted to be blatant and just ain't doing it and compromise this thing. So I want y'all to sit and just evaluate yourselves this morning. I'm actually going to get right on time today. Last Sundays of the month alone, but they're so busy. So busy. But I just want you to evaluate where you're at this morning and just kind of look at where you're at. And evaluate yourselves, evaluate your hearts, evaluate where you're at and what you're connected to. And are you truly settled? And I'll say that for y'all that's getting ready to take the classes this afternoon. Evaluate yourselves. Are you where God's called you to be? And are you settled in that? Are you settled in that? God has called me here. I am settled. I am planted. So just evaluate yourself this morning. Check yourselves. We should be doing it all the time anyway. Sometimes we just need a reminder, but just check yourself. Where you at? And I'm not sitting up here like Apostle would always tell you, I'm not sitting up here as a grand poobah and I got it all right. But I want to get it right. I'm looking to get it right. My heart is to get it right. And even if I miss it, God's going to help me and I'm going to get it right. And if that's where your heart is I'm going to get it right. I want to get it right. Not that I've got to be right. I just want to get it right. You know, a relationship with God is like a relationship with anybody else in this sense. If I always have to be right with her, if everything I'm doing, if it doesn't matter her, whatever's going on with her, I just have to be right, she's lost a voice. And she's going to feel that. She has no voice with me. He's right. He's just got to be right. Just let him be right. She'll compromise things that she knows to be right just to make sure I'm right so that there's no conflict. You got me? We'll do that with people. We'll do that with people. The deal is if my heart is in the right place and I just want to get it right. I ain't got to be right. I just want to get it right. And if what I'm doing is right and I want to get it right and my heart's pure in that, and that's all that matters. So evaluate yourselves this morning. Evaluate where you're at. Evaluate what it is you're doing. What has God called you to? Amen. It's going to take just a couple extra minutes. Totally outside of the norm. Who's doing Preacher Connection? You are? Well, you got called on everything, didn't you?
For the record, that was planned months ago.
It was good. It was good planning. Good planning. I'm going to turn it over to her in here in just a second. But just evaluate where you're at this morning. Just evaluate yourself. Mike, come here a minute. I know you're in pain. Come here. Come here. Come here, Skylar. Give me my hand.
Thank you, Jesus.